Gautam, thank you so much for being here for this session of Ops Matters. Right, we have an important set of topics to discuss. Links very closely, how operations sort of is not just operations, but it's really the backbone of the business, and what implications it has on a company's ability to grow and to scale. Right now, we've obviously done our best to let the community know who you are, what you've done and why we were so excited to have you here. But maybe we kick off a little bit with some quick background about yourself, what you've been up to in the last few years, and maybe also tell the audience a little bit about what BeatO is and what BeatO does. Right, I think that'd be a great starting point to ground the conversation, and then we take it from there into the specific topics. So over to you, Gautam.
Sure. So, first of all, a very good morning to all of you, and I'm glad that somebody is awake on a Sunday morning listening to this. Hopefully, interesting and exciting session. But thank you, Rohit and so for bringing me in. Just a quick note on my background, pretty conventional one. I'm an engineer by qualification, worked in consulting for a while, then did my MBA from the Indian School of Business at Hyderabad, graduated in a pretty bad year, 2009. If I think most of you may have been in school at that time, but it was a pretty bad year of an economic downturn starting kicking off. Was among the fortunate few to have got a great placement. I moved to Europe to work with the Lufthansa Group, which some of you may know already. It's the one of the largest commercial aviation groups in the world. I think that is where my grounding and the learning for ops began. I spent almost 8 years in different parts of the Lufthansa group, from commercial functions to operation functions to maintenance, repair, and overall, and everything, because I was part of this global, rotation management program. So it allowed me to see operations at the core and at the front end, and so those 8 years were really, really beneficial. Of course, eventually I ended up, leading joint ventures and mergers and acquisitions for Lufthansa. Before deciding to come back to start BeatO in 2015. So this year we'll celebrate or we'll be almost a decade old, building and scaling BeatO. But BeatO really began from a personal pain point. Unfortunately, I was in my early 30s when I was diagnosed with diabetes, an HbA1c level, if some of you may know, close to about 6.4, 6.5. So just about on the borderline, but wanted to do something to be able to take control of my own health. And then when I was back in India, bumped into a friend of mine from school, who's now my co-founder at BeatO. He had been actually diagnosed with pretty serious diabetes around the same time. And when we started digging deeper, we realized that fundamentally the challenge and with most problem statements in India is not just about the volume. For instance, in India there are about 100 million people who have diabetes, who have been diagnosed with diabetes, and these are, recently these numbers came up in the ICMR data. But the real challenge is that 80% of them actually have uncontrolled diabetes. And when you start digging deeper, you realize again, it's a classical ops problem, because when you start to look at why is this such a grave situation, that while we have 100 million population, and it's always going to be very difficult to reach every nick and corner of India without good solid ops. It's also pertinent that we solve for the fact that 80% of them have uncontrolled diabetes, or are on the, I would say, pretty much a ticking time bomb. When we realized there were fundamentally three topics which were causing this. One was access. So almost 80% or 90% of specialists, for instance, lived in metro cities, and doctors, specialist doctors were living in metro cities, but the patient population is growing in tier 2, 3, and rural areas of India. And but access is not just a problem of supply and demand, and this is where I want to come in terms of ops. It's also the fact that for instance, I don't know how many of you might be in Delhi, Mumbai, or Bangalore, these busy cities. Just getting to a doctor is an ordeal, right? In Delhi, if I have to go to Medanta, which is a prominent hospital here, I'll spend almost an hour, hour and a half in the car just to reach Medanta. Then I'll spend about 20-25 minutes just getting to the elevator because it's such a long queue. And then, the doctor might make me wait for a couple of hours and then see me for a couple of minutes, and then I'm back, heading home, and going through that again, Herculean traffic and everything else. And so it actually builds in an inertia. And now, transport this situation to a rural area of India. This is, we're talking of Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Pune, etc. But if you transport this to a small town of India, and I work now a lot in rural areas and the tehsils of India, uh, the nearest specialist is about 150 200 kilometers away. So they are typically in a division. Then you have a district, then a tehsil, and then a gaon. So this individual has to actually give up if he wants to go and see a good doctor for treating their diabetes, which is becoming a little serious. They have to travel all the way, let's say from a small town like Magroni to all the way to a Gwalior. If I take the example of MP, and that itself is an opportunity cost, because this person is mostly a farmer or a shopkeeper. They will shut their shop. They will have time away from their farm. They'll go spend the whole day. They will unfortunately have transportation cost, consultation costs. Sorry, my son is, I gave him the task of making coffee for me. So this access, and the fact that there's so much of inertia, whether you're in a big city or in a small town, creates procrastination, and people don't end up going and seeing the doctor unless it becomes really really bad. So this is one problem of access. The second one is, of course, why, when I told you about the 80% problem statement of uncontrolled diabetes, the second one is of awareness and continuity of education, because diabetes is not something that is going to get treated or cured on day one. It's a continuous learning process. It's how, in business we continuously improve on ourselves, in our business and in ops. It's the same what we want to do with our bodies, right? And as you graduate from one level to the other, I'm sure many of you play video games, you'll have to develop new skills, you'll have to set new goals, you'll have to create better efficiencies, and hence this continuity of awareness and education also makes a hell of a lot of importance in terms of adherence. And again, why I'm giving you this context, because eventually when I tell you, everything boils down to ops, and how efficient ops drives all these things. And finally, it's about affordability, guys. In India, everything, and more so unfortunately in health, as some of you may have noticed, affordability of healthcare determines how adherence of healthcare takes place. Unfortunately, diabetes and chronic conditions, nobody pays for these. You pay out of your own pocket. There's no insurance provider. There's typically no one footing your bill, unlike, let's say, in the West. And hence, people who are on medication, even over a period of time, because of simply the expense of medication, they fall off the medication. They won't get diagnostics done frequently enough, because it's going to cost some money. And hence, when you look at these three A's which I just told you about: access, awareness, and affordability, these three need to be tackled effectively to be able to control diabetes. And this is really what we signed up for 10 years back. And I would definitely say, when I look back at the journey of the last 10 years, we've been able to crack a lot of these problems, and which have contributed to both the scale and the efficiency that BeatO's been able to drive by reaching 25, close to 2.5 million or 25 lakh customers across 30,000 pin codes of India. So that's a little longer monologue than I was expecting to introduce both myself and BeatO.
Awesome, Gautam. Thank you so much. I think I know that Shogato definitely resonated with what you said, right? Because he not only worked at Medanta, but he also happens to be a gamer, right?